Everybody, I think we're ready to get going here. So I'm calling this meeting of the Nantucket Historic District Commission to order. It is 1:01 on December 14th. Present at the moment are John McLaughlin, Stephen Welsh, Diane Coombs, Val Oliver, and myself, Ray Poole. Abby Camp should be joining us in about 10 minutes. You know, no filming the proceedings unless you tell us in advance. That'll be it for now. Can I have a motion to approve this short agenda? Thank you, Diane. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Public comment? No. Moving on, we got Matt. You can approach the bench. Stephen, can you help her with her?
Oh, yeah, I didn't even see her.
Oops. It's just.
Oh, I like that. This is McLaughlin and Oliver. Very good. All right.
Just give you a quick recap, Mr. Chair. All of course, for all this. So the changes we made, we had gone through a couple of different iterations. We broke up on the east elevation a series of three smaller dormers.
Right.
We had asked us to go back to the larger dormer and just space up the windows, eliminate the ganging, which we've done. And then conversely, on the west elevation, we've increased the size of the dormer compared to what it was. So it felt a little bit undersized. So those are the primary changes on top of all the other ones we've made in the previous iteration.
Okay, thanks. Have we all had a chance to digest Matt's revisions? Do either of you want to start?
I appreciate the changes. I think making them simpler instead of so many little ones is much better. Yeah.
Diane?
Yes, I agree. I appreciate the dormer on the east elevation. I think the separation of those windows make it look very nice and gives that dormer some presence on that elevation. And also on there for the west.
The West, yeah. I agree with
The
that.
front door is, Brady doesn't change that. I didn't have any problem with it last time. I like the chimney. The chimneys is a major point. So that's what I have to say.
You left it off, Matt, on your south by mistake.
What's that?
The chimney.
No, wait a
I
minute.
got it on the east and I got it on the west.
Just
okay.
the little piece that sticks up.
It's like way in the background.
Yeah.
It just doesn't show up, but there would be a little
It's-
silhouette back there. Hey, John, how do you feel about the revisions? What do you think of the revisions? Actually,
I only one thing to question
yeah.
is your rate board.
Yes.
12-inch, usually 6 inches. You know, it doesn't extend that much out. 6 inches with the gutter.
He's talking about these.
Yes.
So I think that we are matching, there's an existing one-story cottage that, the studio that was there, and I believe that we've matched that existing detail, even though we got approval to demolish it.
You return to 12 inches, that's what I'm saying.
So see, John, see the little cottage right there, John?
Yeah.
That's on the same piece of property, and that is the piece, that's the existing building, right?
What's that?
Didn't you
Sorry.
peel some part of, you peeled the back part of that off, but that front part, that cottage,
That little one.
next to John's right hand there.
Yes. Well, I'm sorry, I'm not confusing the issue here. Is your question, yeah, we did have an approval for a secondary additive mass, which we've eliminated.
None.
But as far as this structure is a completely new structure.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, we had talked about keeping it, but we basically,
okay.
it wasn't of any historic value or significance, but you did like the character and the detail of it, so.
I agree, yeah.
You emulated its existing condition details. It looks very
This one's
similar in
approved.
terms of scale.
This is the one.
I thought mine.
This, I don't know who that is.
I do not know. No.
Who that?
I think they look, actually, they look good on.
Good with it?
on the house.
I think he's good with it,
Okay.
other than that.
Should I make a motion to approve submitted?
Sounds good to me. All those in favor of Diane's motion to approve?
Aye.
You okay?
Aye.
Customarily, we provide the Georgia style, but
Those longer ones, yeah. I think this is sort of a Greek revival
sort of.
facade.
I mean,
Looks pretty much like it. So, you have an approval on that one. Oh, sorry, John. I don't think I'm gonna make it all the way down there. Okay, how about, Shimo Pond Road Board?
Chairman, if it pleases the commission, I was hired by the abutters to look and give input on.
Have a seat.
Please. I drafted this letter to the commission.
Good.
Just state your name, please. Peter Kuiper, representing Billy Eskin and Ellen Eskin, who live at 35 Shimo Pond Road.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Let the record reflect that Abby has joined us, and it's 1:09. And so back to our board on this.
Cole, Coombs, McLaughlin, Camp, and Oliver, alternate Welch.
Okay. All right.
Just said.
Lowercase s.
Can you send that down? Okay, Matt, you want to start?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let's see here. So, some of the feedback that we received prior was the facade, as you see it from the way, was a little bit too vertical, specifically that the view facing forward was not appropriate, or it would be better suited if we could do a cross gable of sorts. Probably the most predominant elevation would be the east elevation. You can compare, which is drawing 3 on sheet A2.4, compare it to the previously submitted east elevation. I agree I agree with your comment that the E forward and the flush shed was just a little too vertical. And so we were able to kind of play around with the geometries to give a gable forward. So I think that the presence is significantly improved. One other point to mention is that you had mentioned this previously, we are shifting the garage back so that overhang is not over the setback. I did not update that on the site plan, so I apologize
okay.
for that confusion, but it will be shifted back to account for the overhang. And I would say that as far as the drawing is concerned, I don't know if everyone's familiar with the site, but there is a significant topographic change there. Currently, there's I think about an 8-foot retaining wall, stone retaining wall. The grade slopes up fairly significantly. The current layout is there's actually a pool that's supported by like I said, an 8-foot retaining wall. Our intent here is to actually set this into the grade and sides with retaining walls. In the interest of full clarity, so that the board can actually see the full elevation, we've presented these drawings so that you see the projected elevation as you will. But I don't think that they're going to express themselves as vertically as it may look on drawing 3. Secondarily, you'll have to be essentially on the property. Now, there is a paper road, but there are no other houses at the terminus of this road. So in order to really get a sense of that elevation, east elevation, you really have to be on the property to see it. And looking at it down,
Why is that, Matt?
it's a,
What's to account for that? Why do you think that you need to be on the property?
because I think you'd actually have to pass through this threshold, if you will, through here. You're really somewhere back in this area before you actually caught a glimpse of that view. Do you know what I mean? There's no other access. I mean, even though this is Shore Road is a road, it's a paper road. It doesn't actually access any other homes. So I guess my point is, it's not as if you're going to be driving by. The public is going to be driving through here to catch that view. So I just wanted to point that out. I just don't think that it's going to express itself the way that it shows on the elevation. But that's all I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Peter, do you have anything to say at the moment?
Mr. Chairman, please. My two clients have been absent from this process since the beginning, and I lectured them about the importance of coming and having input in the whole process. And so they understand that the ship has sailed on a lot of stuff already and that they're coming lately. But nevertheless, they do want to be heard. Their property is 35 Shimo Pond Road, and it does overlook the harbor, and the view from that house is constrained on both sides by 46 and the house on the other side. And while the...
Is that your client right there?
This is my client.
That's your client?
Okay.
That's that house right there.
Okay, so it's right in front of theirs, sort of.
This is, so their view is like right between those two. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, and
I just
not at all. This is really the essence of what's happening. And while their view is protected by a covenant to the Shimo Association, in large part, it does and it will, by necessity, overlook especially the western part of the proposed development here. This is a large structure, and obviously the structure is not under review today, but in conjunction with the guest house, it's a lot of building, and it stretches in an east-west direction, which would and does affect the view, both from my client's house, but moreover also from the harbor itself. When you look in, it really takes up a lot of your eye as you look at it, and my clients would maintain that it takes up too much, that the cottage is too tall and really grabs the eye and takes away from any kind of continuity in the roof line that would indicate a historical genesis of the structure rather than somebody just filling it all at once, which of course what we're doing, but that's what we do here in the HDC, is to try to give it a historical context. And my clients would say that the guest house as proposed is too tall and too stark to give the roof lines from the harbor, from my client's house, any kind of real continuity. I would also note that depending on which face of this proposed structure you measure, it's as tall as 31 feet or taller, depending on the face of the structure. And I understand that you can average relative to the topography to come out with a height that is acceptable to the zoning board of the HPC. But nevertheless, this is a tall structure. My clients are also concerned, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, just another minor concern, is that they view the structure looking in a northerly direction. And what they are concerned about, aside from the height of the cottage, is also that they're looking at a parking lot with what looks to be like a steel gate. And we just wanted some clarification on that, perhaps.
But do we have, is the next thing on this a landscape?
It is.
Okay, so
Perhaps we should
the
parse
gate,
that out.
yeah, the gate, right now, Peter, what we're reviewing obviously is just the
Just the
guest
guest
house.
house, okay.
And you're aware that the main house has already been approved.
Yes.
Interestingly, though, if your client's concern is the western part of this property. The main house is actually moved further east vis-a-vis what's there now. So their only concern, I would think, should be the guest house.
And yes.
And
Yep.
you know, I don't need to tell you that this board is concerned about visibility from a public way. And I'm sure that your argument would be that Shimo Pond Road is a public way, or at least a publicly traveled way. And I'm a little unclear on that because right now, Matt, the drive to this house, if memory serves me, sort of sweeps all the way around,
Correct.
and they come in like this, sort of from the east,
Correct.
right? And isn't there some sort of like a communal walk, like a Shimo Pond walk that gets you to the beach there?
I believe that's to the south of the property.
To the south of the property, but the water is to the north of the
West of
property.
the
That's correct.
property, sort of, it's
You're
no
looking at the
scallop
house.
water. That's excellent scalloping.
Oh, it's to the west of this property?
It's between his clients.
I'm gonna call it south, 'cause it's that right
It's
here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve's got it up on the map.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, got it, it's a lot.
That's right.
The house is up there.
Because it has to run to the water.
Got it. Got it. Okay, thank you.
So that was my
Can-
point, that you already go to the property, this is the only house that is at the terminus of Shore Road, which technically is a road, but it doesn't have so go anywhere.
Right.
Not today.
Okay. Abby, are you ready?
Yeah, I just, I think, it does extend the whole view, the whole massing of that main house to take its left. So it will really almost read as one, with the garage, from the water and from, you know, whatever that was, Shimo Road.
You said garage, but what I think you mean is
Yeah.
it will
Yes.
look like part of the main house.
Yes, it will look
Yeah.
like part, right?
Yeah.
So, I was wondering, what if, you took it, if you didn't have the basement floor and it sat down more, so it was only a two-story structure? So I don't have a problem with the structure, with the, I think making the gable, does give it some, you know, some more presence, instead of the shed dormer. It's a little more informal, but this, I think this might, I can't remember the house, well, there it is, right there, so it does have a lot of sheds, but it has some dormers on the other end. So, yeah, I think if it weren't for the garage below the house, and if it sat down, you've got a lot of space there, and it looks like a lot of hard landscaping. I wonder if it couldn't sort of nestle down, not appear so, intrusive.
Thank you. Val?
I actually think it's fine. It does meet the criteria for the height with the average of the four sides. I guess I would say if you could be sort of mindful on the south and come up with a solution to maybe mitigate the lower level there, that's what faces the people that have the issue, and perhaps that would be, you know, good.
Could you repeat that? I'm sorry.
So I'm just perceiving it from the south is the issue with the neighbor. So if there's some way to mitigate that, the tallness on that elevation, the east faces what's now a dead end in their driveway, so.
Mr. Chair, can
Yeah.
I offer one comment too? I think that, again, in the interest of not trying to manipulate the drawings in a way that we're trying to hide the verticality, I think we've kind of taken it the other way and probably accentuated it. There's a part of me that would, I think that there has to be some level of retaining just by nature of the topography.
Understood.
so I think that, through retaining walls, which we do anyways, we may, the building won't quite look as vertical as it does, so probably has some sort of change in that.
That's what I
area.
was thinking, on the
So
south.
You don't really see much
Right.
of it.
Let it go.
Before we got the landscape design approved, we didn't want to show that, so, I guess my point is I think that it might be helpful to show, either some of that retaining wall, there might be some way that we actually screen it, so, it doesn't, so that driveway's not really visible, because you do actually approach it from the side, which you can see in the site plan. You kind of curve down and around to it. So there's likely a way to mitigate that, that's all I was gonna offer.
Was that it, Val?
Yeah.
Okay, Diane?
I don't know what you can do to give it being not so tall, or you say that that's what you're doing with, if that's being true, on the east elevation, which, this used to be called Pimney Point, and I have spent considerable time there. And you could, because of the way it's situated and everything, it's visible, all the sides are actually visible from wherever you are. It's no side east because it faces the house, but you can see it coming in, you can see it from the water, all the rest of it. I think that the fenestration on the east side needs to have more to support all of that that's underneath it. I don't know, is it necessary to have, we see that lower area from the south and from the east. We don't see it from the north and the west, right?
You don't see it from the north and the west. Correct.
So I don't know whether there's any way to mitigate that so that the people coming up, particularly the neighbors right next door, are not looking into a 3-story building there.
There might be a way, this is just a very crude sketch.
Yeah.
To indicate retaining walls, which we will need, but I could probably maybe even eliminate the door adjacent to the garage door. So the critical thing is just to be able to utilize that storage space.
Right.
So I could probably mitigate it so that it literally is just the width of the.
That would be
garage door.
super helpful.
That would be wonderful to do that. And I think what the problem of the length of the building is that if you look at it so-called west, the garage sits right next to the main house, so when you're out on the water or whatever, looking back at it, it looks like the garage is all part of the house, so it makes it a really, really long piece of property. I don't know if there's any way of moving it, turning it, or whatever, so see how it lines up perfectly if you're to the west. Look at your pictures up at the top of the page.
Yeah. And I would also point out, again, we'd rather err on the side of transparency than trying to manipulate the drawings in a way where it doesn't show it, but, you can see how it's actually faded, it's set
Yeah,
back.
I know it is, but if you're standing out here from here, looking up,
Yeah.
it's looking like, you can't see how far it's stepped back. It
I think
just
you're looking at it dead on.
Yeah.
Right. But I think the fact that it's like set back as far as it is, and I can actually show you some 3-dimensional views there. I tend to think that when you look at the house from the water, you're gonna see the house. It'll be a player, but I think that it's gonna be kind of a reduced player, but.
All right, well,
it's
give
something
us
to look at.
one of your good pictures that
Yeah, we can, it's all well,
Three-
things we actually show you
3D.
perspective.
show what it will look like.
I can show you that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Diane. John?
I think the house fits in as a cottage, whatever it is, garage cottage. My only comment is here, this is on the south elevation. All right, it shows a 4-foot deck coming up from the wall. And it should be rectangular with corner boards and get rid of the curb. The curb should disappear, that's not difficult.
The deck,
on the
this
house.
deck right here is curved.
Elevation.
We approved those on the house,
That's up here. On this one here?
on the main house.
Yeah.
You don't
Can I
have
see
one?
it? Yeah, it's a curved deck.
Yeah.
There
I
and
think
there.
it's been made rectangular,
Yeah,
like the rest of them.
okay.
Thank you.
That was it?
That's my comment.
Okay, thank you, John.
Could I add one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just on the guest cottage, I just want to make, because I don't understand the terrain. If it goes west, if the cottage could be moved west, would it be going down the hill more?
No, you're going up the hill.
Okay. I just wasn't sure about that.
Am I correct in saying that? I think I am.
Yeah, already.
So.
There's a huge sand dune
Alternatively,
right
if it
here.
goes the other way, if it comes east, would it be, if it came up more towards the road, would it be less, would it be on a lower level than it is now?
He's right at his setback,
Right at
that's
the
the
setback.
problem.
Yeah.
Oh, is this the setback?
See
Yeah.
this right here? He's
I'm just
really
saying, you've got like a
shoehorned in.
place of parking for 4 cars, you know, and now there's a garage that you definitely, you know, it's going to look from the water like a, I mean, Emmy's Point is an old-fashioned site, and I know what was there before, but I'm just saying, it's a lot for that sort of, you know, it's a historic, spot.
Thank you. So, you know, Matt, I appreciate your effort, and it was, I believe my comment about the sort of eave forward thing, you know, this wall that you changed and turned into a gable. Interestingly, though, that gable, if I'm not mistaken, only projects out at the most a foot, probably less than that, right?
What, on the north elevation you're
Yes.
talking?
When you look at the east elevation, you know, the one with the garage doors on it, and compare it to what he had before, he's introduced a gable there. But the gable is really, it only projects out like by the width of a corner board, so, you know, like 6 inches. So it's really very, you know, faux. I don't think that's gonna look right. And I'm sure that the reason that you did that is because of your constraints in terms of setbacks and all that?
Setbacks, and also the footprint of this building is under 400 square feet. It's like 360, I think. something
Meaning
like
that that's all you're entitled to?
Yes,
For the
yeah.
ground
It's
coverage?
tiny.
Uh-huh.
So every.
Well, I think that's the problem you're wrestling with here, is because your limited ground coverage is making this building feel very, limited ground coverage, and the fact that you're really 3 stories on the east elevation is making this feel very tall. You know, I don't think anybody would dispute that, like, the west elevation is very harmonious, you know, the proportions are great and everything. So I think that whatever efforts you can make in terms of, like, maybe sinking the garage down a little bit, I don't know what the water table's like, doing what you were suggesting doing, like by masking over that human door on the left-hand side of the east elevation, and minimizing the amount of sort of cut you're making into the landscape, that will help to ground this building and make it feel less vertical. So, anything to add, sir?
No, just exactly that, which is, the main house is substantial, and that's where most of the ground cover got used up, and it sort of created their own issue in a way with the cottage, and we would just ask that it be lower, short.
I think that sentiment is shared by the board.
Thank you.
Can I ask one question that I just noticed when we were talking? Matt, where the cottage is, to the north of that is a gray rectangle.
Yes, dark gray.
Yeah.
Yeah, what is that?
That is area, that's the actual basement below grade.
Is that, that's what's,
The
is
two
that?
structures are connected below.
Yeah,
grade.
that's the tunnel.
Oh, interesting. It's
Yeah.
more than a tunnel.
Yeah.
So, All right, because I was hoping maybe you could move the cottage up into that gray area, but,
I will be actually doing that, just by nature of pushing the structure back to account for the, but it will actually do that.
Well, wait, she's talking, I think, you're talking about moving it further west
Correct.
to account for the overhang
Yes.
over the garage doors. What Diane is suggesting is pushing it further north.
right, up to near where those 4 cars are parked.
Yeah.
And then, even if you did see it from the water and whatever, it wouldn't look so humongous.
Well, it's compacting the overall footprint.
Right,
Well, then it's right in front of the front door, though. I bet you could move it up to where the edge of that dark gray is.
that's where I meant, was to bring it up here. Where's the front door?
The front door is right there, so
Well,
it wouldn't really, maybe
not
really connect them.
If you brought it up here, you'd be parking right at where the 4 cars are, and you would not be covering the front door, and you would be smalling the footprint.
I might be able to cheat it a little bit north.
I think that's worth looking at,
Yeah.
definitely. Because it really will serve to reduce the overall perceived length of this thing, both on the east and the west.
Right.
Okay, so should we hold this
All
for
for
some?
revisions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, thanks, and we'll enter this into the record. All those in favor of Diane's motion to hold this for some revisions?
Aye.
Aye. And now we're going to talk about the landscape.
Actually,
Cool.
could we put that, I was gonna see if I could hold that application.
Yeah.
We've recently hired a local landscape designer and installer to kind of review this proposal, because there's some elements in here that we think, we know.
You don't have to twist my arm. We'll hold it.
Especially all that hardscaping.
We have a motion to
Should
hold
we
the
say
land.
track with the?
Yeah, sure. All those in favor of Diane's motion to have the pool landscape track the guest house?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Do you know when our next meeting might be?
It all depends on when he can get the, yeah.
Gets his work. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you're here for one more?
Yes.
Okay.
I would think they'd be happy though, because the house that's there is hideous.
They are.
And now it's looking nice.
They appreciate the quality that's going into it.
That house,
There now. That used to be called Finley's Pool. Remember that?
Okay.
Top scholar thing.
Here's one we checked. That was a month ago. She said if we use void decking, it would count as.
Really?
But if we use stone,
It
That
doesn't.
empty lot on Hill.
And then what do you got, like 3 or 6 inches below grade and just a water system
No,
on
no,
it?
no, not you moving. Yeah.
concrete on top of that.
Doesn't show, is there,
Drainage.
Ice and water.
Yeah, yeah.
that's nice, so they're taking down.
New York?
I've been thinking about doing it on a little job I have,
Yeah, it doesn't count as ground.
because I pulled the ZBA ruling on it. I remember hearing it saying, someday this is going to be useful, but I wasn't sure what you were going to do.
yeah, no, exactly. No, I mean, I think I saw her last summer, early last summer, and that was it. But she lives,
Yeah, you need space.
So it's west facing, front door.
Oh,
Pop it out.
yeah.
she cut out her,
That's a good solution.
Is it on this map? Because it was Old Westmore.
I think it's nice out there.
This is her house was here and got moved on or something.
It's confusing, because that house is gone.
Right. And this was subdivided into 3 lots, correct? Or am I confusing it?
Yes, two lots.
2 lots.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so,
I think the,
how you been?
only change here. The front door type.
Yeah.
Previously, we didn't have the half wall returns. Due to the previous submission, specifically in the west elevation, you'll see that it's a shingled half wall.
Oh, yeah, yeah, right.
Pilgrim?
Do remember that.
Front door.
What's all the white sash notation?
So,
Are you
yeah.
changing the color?
The owners want to utilize white sash. Got some perspectives too.
Empty lot, yeah.
Initially, we submitted it with the gray, and then after we submitted, they're like looking around. As far as the neighborhood's concerned, they like the white.
They drank the Kool-Aid.
They drank the Kool-Aid.
It's just three-dimensional rendering. You don't like it?
It's all cottage quarters. There's
You don't like this architecture, is, you mean it's inappropriate, or you don't like this type of a drawing?
so.
Oh, I got you.
So those are the major changes.
Okay.
I want to be clear about that because they did change the color.
Did we pass this at 9:30 at night?
What's that?
Did you pass this at 9:30 at night?
The witching hour.
Actually, we haven't passed anything yet. This is
No,
still.
I know, I was just the first go around, I was just thinking.
Why do you think you missed some things?
Yeah, but just the lot line, I realized
roller
that you
skates.
the lot subdivided, right?
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, it's pretty stuffed in there.
I think the linear nature, I think in site plan, you know, kind of tails off towards the back. But we do have a lot of one-story components to it, so I think the primary facade is actually fairly stout. Specifically on the south. Southwest. Southwest. The west is really represents itself.
It's down about it, you see.
So,
I think of Santa Claus, you know,
in
he's
comparison
stout.
to the south. The south is long, but again, I would say a majority of that is
Single story.
one story.
Yeah.
Telegraph.
Yeah.
What's the question?
So did you want to register that as a
Well,
concern?
I
Regress.
I'm not sure, I like the telescoping, but I think it's the lot line to lot line effect. I just am getting this, you know, everybody's getting a little greedy. And, I don't know, I don't know, I love the design of your house. I always love the design of your house. I'm just saying that, you know, it's one of those situations where it's almost lot line to lot line, width-wise. But
When we do a little bit of reading room on the right side, we get like 15 feet. It's like 10 feet off the setback. But
And you're, well, aside from this little porch roof on the left-hand side, you're 9.5 feet. Anyway,
Does that count as ground cover?
what's that?
The little wood on the,
No.
sticks out.
Open porches of any kind do not count as ground cover.
I was trying to find it and I couldn't find it.
Yeah, I think they made that rule a long time ago because the HTC was in favor of open porches
Right.
to ground buildings, and so people were not putting them on because they were being
There's-
penalized.
Being for that.
Yeah, so they made it exempt so that you could ground buildings with porches.
But if we put front stairs on the street,
Yeah.
that does count, right?
Well, now
Setback.
setback.
Yeah.
Is that what you meant? Ground coverage or setback?
No, setback, it counts for, but ground cover, it doesn't.
Correct.
Like street, on Union Street, stairs on Union Street,
Right.
where they're on the sidewalk, which belongs to the town, that does not count.
Well, that's a really good question. The answer is, I think that if it's on town property, A, it better be pre-existing non-conforming, and B, if it's on somebody else's property, it probably doesn't count as ground coverage towards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a funny question.
It depends on who you get the letter from.
Yeah, right. That's one for the lawyers. Anything else, Abby?
Well, I was just noticing how shingle style it is, with your deep dormers and your, little cottage sort of twists at the certain places. I was just wondering about that front door, whether that couldn't also have a little of that shingle style character, something might have the lace window, whatever it's called. What's it called?
Oh,
Bracelet.
a bracelet window?
Yeah, like or some, or you know, a Dutch door or something. Maybe you could, and maybe something in the little triangle you have up there. Just if it is shingle style, maybe bring in a few pops and whistles.
A dove cot.
Yeah, and where's the chimney? I could have a really
You promised
cool
us a
chimney on
chimney,
this.
Yeah.
Matthew.
Did he?
Oh,
Yes,
he
he
did?
did.
For
Oh,
Christmas?
yes. Yeah.
Oh,
How's
yeah, that
Santa
was
gonna
the
be
Santa
able to visit?
discussion. I remember this. It was late at night.
Okay, thank you, Abby. Diane?
One big thing, I think, on the north elevation, is that the one with the meeting rails? The meeting rails are way off. And it shows up a lot, particularly since you have those dormers that slide up the roof. On that top drawing, they really show up as being too high. So I don't know whether they can drop the roof down or
We could probably drop that plate.
push them up, whatever's good.
Drop the plate?
Drop the knee wall, the knee wall.
Yeah, the plate.
Would that work all right?
Yeah.
Would bring everything.
We drop the height.
That would be fabulous. Anything else, Diane?
No, I appreciate this building because it has little additions to it which give it a more additive massing than before, and I think that's good. I think that will fit into Pilgrim Road type houses well.
Getting denser.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yes, for now that's it.
John?
Yes, there's no cardinal point, I can't find it. Covered, southeast, south, and west. Okay, yeah, I'll figure it out. Thank you. My comments are, the house looks nice to see in the area. My only one heavy comment is that on the, let me get back there, on the east and west elevations, I feel they're visible from Pilgrim Road, Paul Jones, and Gary Lane. It's a minor comment, but you know how I am. And on those, both each side of this unit, there's F window, and they're listed as awnings. You can raise the roof and put in double hungs, or something else.
Are you okay if those windows are fixed? If they're fixed?
He's gonna fix them.
We could just make it fixed.
Can be fixed?
Yeah. The F types, yeah.
Okay.
You'd be all right with that?
You get that, John?
Yes,
Thank you.
that's for fixed.
That's
Right.
what the F is called, fixed.
Okay. So, you good? Val?
I really just have a question, just because I can't figure it out. The east drops down, and I don't see that drop down on the south, or am I missing something? What is that?
Good question.
It's actually, that's for the
2.5 foot out.
topography. So, if you look at the site plan,
It wouldn't show on the south though?
software, not really, because the shots taken, I don't know if you look at the site plan, it's almost
Yep.
as if that patio surrounding the pool is elevated, and so the cut plane is cutting through the, you technically see a bit of the stairs. We're not showing it in the south
I understand now. Do you get it?
No,
See,
explain
okay,
it
if
to
you look
me.
at, if you look at the site plan,
Yeah,
the reason that you don't see that drop, I think, is because the pool, right, which we haven't seen an application for yet, is at the same level as the grade in the front. So that's all shown flat. You know what I'm saying?
so there'll be some retaining on the, so what's gonna keep
He
that
never brings
from
enough to share.
2 feet?
Bring enough to share.
No one ever
See,
asked.
that's what I
bring it
didn't
up to share?
understand. Okay.
No, no. No one ever asked.
It's gonna be retained.
I call them up about an hour before the meeting.
Yes.
They're gonna retain
Then he
it
picks up the
here
phone
and
and he
here.
says,
All or nothing, one or the other. No.
It's just because I didn't
Matt, you
understand.
better get back here.
don't,
Okay,
You're pushing.
don't.
Val, are you satisfied?
Yeah, it was just because I didn't understand
Okay,
it.
but so, it's
I'm
good now?
fine with the house.
Okay, so, I'm actually, look, I think generally, although Abby, I certainly appreciate your concern about the overall width thing. I think that density is something that, we as a board are gonna have to sort of accept. There will be another building going in front of this, the garage. I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing necessarily from a density standpoint. This thing is closer to this setback than this building is, so that bit that you have of openness is gonna. What's that?
I think you're gonna break up.
As long as it's not like the 3-story garage we just saw.
Yeah, Matt.
Now, but I just want to say that, two things. One, I like Abby's idea of taking the opportunity with the shingle-style house to do a few things, you know, like in the gable end, et cetera. That was a good idea. And Diane's idea about the dormers, which will, I believe, if I understood you correctly, lower the gable, the biggest, tallest gable. So I'm in favor of those two ideas.
Squeeze in the chimney.
And if you can squeeze in the chimney, hey, wouldn't that be great? Okay, so, can I have a motion?
But I've got a motion to hold for revision. Okay.
Oh, this isn't gonna be through our staff. We need, I think we need to see it.
Right.
So, all those in favor of Abby's motion to hold for some revisions?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks. Bye-bye. Okay, 8 Coffin. I get it. Hello, Stephen, how are you? You may want to spell that?
Yeah, can you just spell it for the minute?
Sorry.
Milena, first name Milena, and last name Ilieva.
Thank you.
And
You got that, John?
Yes.
Nice job. Welcome. Thank you.
So,
I would call Steve for video call, and I can do my best to explain for any problem if you will be able to have with him.
what we're gonna do first, okay, hang on 1 second. Can I,
We have Hawk Circle in front of us, not Coffin.
You're not Hawks, sir.
no, well, she's here to represent both,
Oh, okay.
right?
Yes, and
Okay.
I'm very familiar with the,
It's okay, but what I wanna do, I wanna get our board. So, we're looking at Hawk Circle now, is that correct?
Yeah, I passed that up.
Okay, no problem.
Are you familiar with that?
no, really.
Not really.
Oh, was it
Would
this
you like
one?
me to call, because we are prepared for that.
No, we can hold on to this. We can bring up the other.
Yeah.
I just doesn't know about it.
Coffee Street.
We'll just put it aside.
Just a little back up, and we'll go forward.
You want to hold on to it?
John
'cause
messed
it's
up.
next?
Is this
Oh,
also
yeah,
in
okay.
Wisconsin or Coffin?
We're doing coffee.
Oh, I remember this with the really funny shaped rock.
Okay. You gonna make a motion to approve?
stuff, same stuff.
That is on Nevers.
Shit regulation.
No, we're on that, we're back on the
John, can
agenda.
you just back?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. That, this parcel.
We're getting closer.
is Right here. Okay.
The board,
Yeah,
Paul Coombs, McLaughlin, Camp, and Oliver, alternate well.
Okay.
all right.
So they're gonna talk and I'm not. I just want to familiarize her with the process.
So we moved the column, that was one thing.
So it's their 3-dimensional square.
Oh, right, they were tapered before.
Yep.
Yeah, right, okay. And moved one. Which
So
was,
as I know, the last comment about the project was that it was too long, so we shortened the length of the building by adding a cable.
oh, got it. Mhm.
Is that the front door? There.
Okay, so you guys have some comments over there? Yeah,
I think my only comment is the front door, it seems a little like squatty, that window pattern is too something. I do appreciate the addition of the gable, that really helped
yeah.
what somebody used to call the tongue wagging the dog.
Tail
Yeah, that's it. For me, it's just the front door.
not gonna touch that.
Okay, thank you, Val. Diane?
I agree with what Val said on the door and the gable, and on the previous east elevation, he's taken that gable out, had two windows. I was wondering if we couldn't put a couple more windows on the first floor under those instead of,
It's probably a stair.
it may be a staircase. I think I asked him, and I can't remember
did.
for sure.
You did.
I did ask him,
Yep, I
didn't I?
remember.
And was there anything on the
Is
page?
it about this one?
Just like over here.
That was the gable.
So I think Steve said this is a stair,
Yeah,
and that's why there's no windows there.
No, this is actually the kitchen wall.
Oh, it's a kitchen wall.
I thought he said so too. Anyway, the only thing that looks funny to me, and that maybe I'm looking at it wrong, is on the west elevation, the posts that he has the red around was in front of the door. But now it isn't there at all. Do we need it, or can we just get rid of it? It's not
Do you
equal,
mean,
so
do we
any-
need it, structurally
Yeah.
or visually?
Both.
I can't imagine that you need it structurally. So
But
this
what,
is,
I mean, it doesn't, it's not even with the one to the left.
no,
And,
all it's doing is it's sort of like, following the line of that gable above it down.
but that's,
That's all.
I don't think it's necessary. I think
Okay. I think that's a good point.
it makes the whole pillar thing look weird.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all.
Okay.
What's the actual front?
I thought it was the one with the really wide door.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Right.
Are we correct? The front would be, front is the north elevation.
North elevation.
Okay.
So on your windows and doors, you have drawn out nicely here. If you look at the front door next to the number 2 door, the number 2 door proportions seem better. and then add side lights. For some reason, that front door, maybe, is it wider, like 3'6" or something?
It's two things. It's only 6'6" high, which is the minimum,
That's what makes it.
minimum the door can be.
Oh,
And it's 3.5 feet wide.
that just,
So it's wider than a normal door and shorter than a normal door. So those two things are, so it should be at least a 6'8" door, and then if it were 3 feet instead of 3.5 feet, then the proportion of the door would be better.
And the windows, glass lights would be better too.
Yeah, the side lights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you
And-
mind
and-
if I call it still?
You can call them if you
I
want.
mean, you can explain.
Needs to be told.
or he has to change the pattern of the grill.
Maybe.
A 6.5 foot high door is, too short. Is that Stephen?
Who?
Hello,
Hey.
Stephen.
Sorry I couldn't be there in person today, but I'm on the road, so.
Well, where are you?
While
You're on the
there-
road?
Visiting my parents, actually, yes.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Are you okay? Your head looks smaller.
Take your hat off.
Yeah, you're in a public meeting.
Thank you.
There you go. Thanks, John.
As always.
So, Stephen, a few things. The front door is really wide and it's short. It's 6.5 feet high and it's 3.5 feet wide. So we want it to go to like a 3 by 6'8".
That's fine.
Okay? So that was one thing. We're talking about on the west elevation, which is that sort of mudroom, I think, entry, getting rid of the column that you actually move, just instead of having 3 columns, just have 2. One at either end.
That's fine as well.
Okay? And we like the gable thing. That worked in terms of getting the length down. Was there anything else?
No,
We did change the columns to 8 inches square.
Yeah, yes.
thank you.
Yeah, wait a minute, hang on a minute. Front door should change to 6 panel, not a 4 light.
You heard it from the boss. You have side lights.
If the board feels the same way, then fine. If not, then we'll let it fly.
Okay.
It's easy to be tough when you're in there.
6 panel door, smile.
Sorry,
Well, no, that's good. Well, there is that thing, Stephen, where usually if it's a door that has side lights, we accept, like, you have glass on the side lights, or you have glass on the door and no side lights. So John has a point.
Let's go 6 panel on the door then. That's fine.
Okay,
Thank
all
you.
right.
Can we do this through staff?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Put your hat back on.
Okay,
Say hello to mom and
Or
dad.
do you want a 4 panel? That would go with the 2
Yeah,
over 2 better.
that's better.
He doesn't want to have, John doesn't want to have any glass in it.
well,
But
no, no,
it- 4 panel
instead of
is-
a 6 panel, it would
Yeah.
be 4 panel, just it would match the side
Oh,
lights.
yeah, no, but still no,
All wood.
yeah.
Okay, so I
Motion
think
to
that,
approve with a 4 panel door, solid wood.
that
And-
measures 3 feet wide by 6'8" high.
That measures.
That's one thing.
John's okay with
That's fine.
Yeah, okay, getting rid of the column on the middle column on, was that the west
Yeah.
side?
Yeah.
Okay, get rid of the middle column on that, and was there anything else?
Now, there are 6 windows, you know, in the cellar. They have great,
Yes, that'd be great. It's on the below ground.
thank you.
Don't go anywhere, you still got 5 Hawk Circle.
Okay, so we have a motion that includes some conditions. Who made that motion?
I did.
Oh, okay. All those in favor of Abby's motion? Aye.
Through staff.
Through staff,
Through
yes.
staff.
Okay, so that's that. And,
Is he staying for Hawks too?
Why not?
Okay.
why not?
On Hawk Circle, we went your recommendation and added a picture window.
Hold on, Charlie Brown.
Okay.
Is this the same board, John?
Yes. Paul Coombs, McLaughlin, Kent, Oliver, Welch.
Right, okay. Okay, so you dropped the rail down with the windows.
If you line the rail, it should have more. You took out 3 windows in the center portion on the south elevation. And inserted a picture window in
I don't remember that this guy.
Oh, I hated this.
Oh, yeah.
Can those side windows be 2 over 2 to match everything else instead of 4 over 4?
Peekaboos? Oh, the side windows on the.
Sure, Val.
Yeah, and so Stephen, to that point, it kind of begs the question, do you want to have that like row of divided lights in the picture unit? Because now they don't really reference anything else.
What do you want a multi-pane unit or
No.
No, just
No.
the picture unit. I think it's, well, fine with me.
So this goes to.
I like picture windows.
Me too. Well, it breaks up all those like that.
Okay, so, the and then ditching that. Okay, so what's being proposed at the moment, just so everybody's got it, is that on the south elevation, we have that picture unit with the 2 side windows, that the side windows would not be 4 over 4s, they would be 2 over 2s to match all the other windows. And then you wouldn't have the, that like little transom thing in the picture unit.
you want it just clear?
Yeah.
Just clear.
That's fine with me.
You okay with that?
No transom.
No transom. Okay. Everybody good? All right. Should I have a motion?
One question, what is a band rail for?
In the picture window.
I think it's just a decoration.
Decorative?
To do, instead of 4
Thank you.
over 4, 2 over 2 is the double hose.
Okay, everybody good?
What is that decorative thing? What is that? Is that like just a
Right.
piece of wood, like a, or is it a shingle? Sort of.
No, it's a wood rail, Abby. It's the same dimension as the sill of the window that runs around the building.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Right. Motion to approve changing the E window to with 2 over 2 side lights and no transom on the picture window.
Say, what are we doing on the B window?
The E, as in eagle,
Yeah.
changes from a 4 light.
Oh,
a
to
2
the
light.
side windows.
Side
Okay, I
windows
got
on the
those.
picture window. And then we're nixing the transom.
Yeah.
Aye.
This one.
Aye.
Aye. Thanks. Yeah,
True staff.
have fun.
These disappeared, right?
Oh, we didn't even discuss those, John.
Right.
Now, you know, those aren't glass, those are just little holes.
No. Others don't have holes neither.
Those are for the kids to see out.
They're a little peek out for the
Oh, right, this was the height challenge.
For the
Tom.
elves. Do you
For
see
the
the
height
thing?
challenge.
There's a
There's
thing.
2 of them downtown on Lily Street.
Oh, really?
So there's a precedent right there. You just sunk your own boat. Let's go.
Okay. Thanks.
Motion to approve with those changes.
I think we already made the motion, I think we already took a vote on it.
I know.
2
Val
approvals and you
voted.
had to say hardly
I
anything.
did, I said aye.
So did
Nice
I.
job.
I voted.
Okay,
Thank
That's
you.
for you.
thanks, you too.
Okay.
All right, so I'm off this next one, so it's to you, Diane.
Okay.
And were we gonna discuss mini splits?
I brought the changes,
You did?
so we
Okay,
can.
I'll stick around.
There's no, doesn't say
Thought about the mini splits.
no transom.
With things,
This
we're gonna
is
talk about it?
Coombs,
Yeah.
McLaughlin, Camp, Oliver, and Welch.
Okay.
This was the other application, this was the first one.
Thank you. All right. Comes so fast.
They just wrote down that was previous.
Do you have any
Oh,
color?
here we go.
any chance have just a site plan for John?
I have site plans. Yes, I
The
have some
multiplying.
and
Is there only one?
And for each of you ladies.
I got some more done.
Oop, sorry.
When are they gonna start landscaping? Which part? Oh, just Old South Road. It looks so scary over there.
The Old South Road, you mean by the brick building?
Yeah.
I left the Bradley Drive and.
Yeah, well, let me give you a little, update.
Yeah, give us an update.
So landscaping's been pretty much done on, the first two retail buildings. We hope to get the third retail building permit any day now. What's not been done, and what we've just got approval at planning board on Monday night, was Old South Road improvements. So the next phase will be to widen that road and to do all the, changes that are gonna come with Old South Road, including a median. And that will include the property that you're referring to, that's, gonna start moving down Old South Road. So our work will start going from the retail space in Lover's Lane towards the airport, relatively soon.
Are they planting trees and stuff, or just sort of
Eventually-
hard landscaping?
No, hardscaping at first. We'll have to get this piece done in terms of the entrance and all of that. But what will happen is the road will move to the other side of the brick building. So the entrance will move, the Gregland entrance will move
So
down.
all of
So
these
that road, which is
we're
not a
doing-
legal road, will disappear.
This one,
And then the retail spaces will come, there'll be 5 buildings eventually, on Old South Road, so 2 additional, in the footprint. So that brick
This
house
one?
will go in the next, probably in March, someplace.
this one.
And Gregland Drive gets, sorry, what happens to Gregland Drive?
Regular Drive will disappear, and become part of the landscape.
Interesting.
So the roadway will come in, as you can see, a much straighter shot all the way to the back. And it won't kind of duel with the Goldfinch exit any longer. So the Goldfinch exit on your right-hand side, it's not marked there on the plan, but it's sort of after the fourth liner building. So that's how far down it will move. It will go past where the brick house currently is. And those plans have just been approved by, planning board.
When will they do planting? Do you have any?
The plantings as far as Old South Road will be done by the spring. You know,
Spring, yeah.
But the next, as we continue to talk about apartments, we will be dealing with, the landscaping around the apartments. There's about 400 trees planned for the whole, and I have a tree plan if you would like me to bring it next time, just for your own notification. So,
Ben,
yeah,
Chipper,
Yes.
you're going too fast, okay, for me to have a caught on. It happened the last week, and I wanna get it straight, which one I'm talking about,
I'm
Because
actually-
you're talking, you got your fingers on it.
yeah, I'm actually not addressing anything before you today. Abby just asked for an update on where we are with the planning board, and I'm giving her a little bit of update on that. Okay?
From here.
No,
No,
nothing
just
before
as
the
a general update,
Just in
Johnny.
general, John, I was wondering.
That's what confuses me. We get too much stuff not pertaining to the application.
Okay, all right,
Comes in,
let's
okay?
go.
I'm not the smartest guy in the class, I'm not dumb.
All right, so let Patty continue with her explanation of what
Would you
we're
like to
going to
hear
be looking at.
okay. So this is nothing to do, nothing to do with anything before you. I'm just giving you a general update on on progress. So, the finish at the start of the season, we'll have a widened Old South Road, we'll have the addition of the median, we'll have Gregland Avenue will have disappeared and become Ironwood, which will come farther down past the brick house. And at that point, I can start telling you, we'll start with the plantings in the spring, so trees and the like. So I can get maybe more of a program, I just haven't outlined it yet.
Thank you, Patty. I was just, a lot of people ask me, and I just
No.
trying to be able to tell you.
The tree plan has not been approved by the planning board yet, and we're doing that in January if you want to be part of that conversation.
John, you're disrupting.
I know it.
I think we should be part as landscaping around our buildings. like in the parking lots and
Well,
stuff.
you know, we'll be doing the hardscape, and I'll see if the trees are, I'll ask Andrew Vorse about that, like how he wants to handle it, because it will overlap, you're right? So-
Right. No, it would be better than find out we're working with something and it turns out it's something else.
What we're doing right now is placing the trees, in the single-family home development. So
Yeah.
it has a lot to do with DPW, and that's who we're talking to. So, and that would be on right-of-ways. So that's what we're talking about in terms of the tree planting. The hardscape, as far as the apartments are concerned, are gonna all be up to you when we get to each building, so,
Good.
okay?
The other place that's putting in big building, we worked for 3 of their days of submission, and we had gotten a plan together that we all thought was a pretty good idea, and we found out last meeting, can't do that. But they never bothered to tell us that we couldn't, so that's why, if you can keep us apprised of what's going on, we won't get into that position again.
Okay.
That's all.
No, I know this is a big, there's a lot of moving pieces, and as you know, I've tried really hard to be transparent with you.
Yeah, that's good.
So,
It's just,
and we're waiting on the hardscape for this, so that you have a set, you know, we're trying to do this in chunks, so there's lot 3 as it's designated on the plan. We'll talk to you about each of the buildings in there before we talk to you about the hardscape for all of the buildings. So, the way that you function, we'll have to bring back a hardscape for each of the buildings, but you'll also want to see it as a whole, so.
right,
Right?
yes.
So that's, our strategy would be to go building by building first, structure, and then come back to you with hardscape building by building, and then as a whole.
That's
Within these
perfect.
little pockets,
Right,
okay?
great. I appreciate that. We appreciate it.
And I am open to talking with you and sharing with you if you'd like me to share the stuff in the right of way as well. I know that's not typical in your purview, but it's all together, so.
Yeah, it's all part of the finished picture.
Right.
All right, we're talking about the buildings.
All right. So we have, which one would you like to start with?
G.
The one that's been handed to us is G.
G, okay. So they're very similar, as you recall, in terms of the specifics, John. I'm going down the G, the pieces in G now, so, do you have this? Yes. Floor plans. We added the roof plans to the site plan, so that we can begin that, keep that conversation. Or I guess the,
West elevation.
they're on the floor plan sheet.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very helpful, thank you.
We're doing G, all right?
Correct.
Yeah.
We're at number 1, floor plans. The first bullet, John,
Right, good.
we've got the roof plan on the site plan. 2 elevations, 5-inch window casings, and trim, 5-inch trim on the side entry door. She fiddled with the gutter, as she describes there, to be adjacent to the building with an 8-inch jog at eave. And natural wood, does it say louvers? Pronouns? Not lovers.
You don't want wooden lovers? No.
And then again, the mechanical enclosures are what you've been approving across the island. We just want to show you where they're located so that you're not surprised in terms of their location. And then second floor, B window dim to remain due to eave, sill, and ridge height restrictions. 30-inch sill, 18-foot 6-inch at dropped eave on the G plan. Roof plans added, all hip roofs changed to gable roofs. Okay.
Yes, who's ready to begin?
I will, it's just minor.
Okay.
The doors, the front door on the south, if that, you could get rid of the middle grill on the side lights and it's just a 3 light that lines up with the panels on the wood door.
I don't see doors on the south, that's my,
Oh, the front door.
south, the front
Okay.
door with the two side lights.
Okay.
You see the panels in the front door, she wants that panel to extend to the side lights.
That-
Same size.
Yeah, so instead of, you have 6 lights on each side, 3, and make the 2 panels below into 1 panel. So everything on the door sort of corresponds with the side light. And then on the east elevation, it's a 12 light, should have a panel under it, not just be flat. And that's really it, it looks good.
Can you repeat that south again? I'm sorry, Doc. On the door,
Single panel side lights.
single panel side light.
Is that what you?
Like this. See,
Was
see
that-
how those panels in the front
They-
door,
they
she
have
wants those
2
to line up
below
with those.
Instead of 1,
Instead of the
and
double.
it has 6 windows on each side, just 3 it should be.
So make it 1
3
and
windows,
3.
single panel, okay?
Yeah,
On either
got it.
side of the door.
I can also show you.
Is that it?
Yeah,
When you say 3, are you saying thinner 2, or are you saying just make it 3?
I think it could just be 3.
Abby,
With no center.
are you ready to
Oh,
go?
yes,
Okay,
I'll wait till this.
okay, great,
And then this.
perfect, thank you.
Okay.
No, I appreciate the changes. I was gonna ask Val what she meant by, did you mean the A windows should have an apron, or what did you say? What was your second comment?
Mine only pertain to doors, and it's on the east. It's a 12 light door, it should have a panel below.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That's it.
Yeah, I think the last time, the only, the detail on the gutter, I was just wondering, I've never seen a gutter that's like squared off. It usually has like a bucket at the, you know, how you usually see at the end of a gutter here. It just goes sort of rounded.
Rounded.
Like a little sort of nest.
Right.
And I don't know why they're square, but maybe it's a kind of a gutter system, I don't know, but
No, we can round it. I think it's,
I think it would come that way anyway.
right.
You know what I just noticed, Abby, if you look at A2, they added a detail, and it actually cleans up the drafting error on
Oh, okay, yeah, I see it now.
Yes,
So it actually
inside.
does have the,
here.
sort of bathroom
See,
on it.
here it's showing square.
Okay,
Which it's not.
anything else that you,
No,
That's
no,
okay.
no, thank you.
all right, Johnny?
These are aluminum gutters.
Yes.
There's a second floor B windows. The wood louvers in the gable end.
Yes.
Here.
Okay, yeah, you got an 8-inch drop at the eaves, okay, thank you.
Steve?
What are the colors?
White
White.
trim, white sash, white doors, black architectural roof.
We're starting, these are our basic models, so we'll probably mix up colors as we go, so.
And all shingle, all shingle siding?
Yes.
Everyone?
And your north, just get me oriented here, your north elevation faces the I building? Not the I we're reviewing today, the I that's, would be considered to the rear of G?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah, 'cause that's
that
Old South
gable,
Road.
that gable's what, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good, thank you.
Can you make a motion to approve this?
I wanted to ask a question. On your, what happened? Can I
Oh,
just-
sorry.
on your east elevation, you have a little fence there, mechanical closure. And the windows that you have there, in a very large gable, are not very many compared to other places' windows. Is there a reason that there are only 2 windows on a floor?
If my recollection is that in our discussions, there was at least a proposal to sort of reduce the number of windows, and that's, I believe, why she incorporated just the two there. I'd have to look at the floor plan to see.
Yeah,
that-
I don't have a floor plan, so,
Let's see, it's-
Your mechanical pad is centered on that
Yeah.
gable, so that also affects looking.
well, that's down at the bottom.
What you got on that?
Down on the bottom.
Is a bedroom and a living room, each with a single window. So are you proposing maybe to double that window?
To put one in the middle,
There's a closet in the middle on the floor plan. You need
on
one
both,
and
on
here.
both floors.
Yeah. Right here.
They're talking about these windows here, and whether more fenestration is required.
That's a living room
Yep.
with a single window in it,
And then two on the front, the other side.
and
It's
two
here.
on the other side. I can see that. I don't know, just
You just told me to put them away.
ask her if, just mention it to her.
Okay.
You handed them to me to pull up.
I think that's a predominant gable, which is what I'm saying, and, but she might not be able,
This side.
yeah,
She's talking about.
and
You gave me the drawings. to pull up.
she knocked out the windows, because we asked for a reduction of windows, or you all did?
No, we didn't have I mean, you can see there's plenty of windows everywhere, so
All right,
I think that's just her design choice,
okay, well, that's just a suggestion that I have.
given the layout.
I thought, that's all.
Appreciate the 5-inch window casing.
Are people ready to approve this building?
I'm okay with it.
Each floor. Yeah. You good?
With the changes mentioned, the kick plate on the 12 panel and the window changes at the front door?
Yes.
Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve
Alrighty.
with the changes that
All right.
Val suggested on the front door and the kick panel on the side.
I drew it on one if you want to
Oh,
make that exhibit A.
Sure, per exhibit A.
I got it drawn too.
Through staff.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Alrighty, and so you have your number 1, please?
All right, next one is I or H? Aye.
H?
Aye. Aye.
Turn the page.
There's a lot of these. These look like the buildings that are already built.
Shorter, right? I think last time, not to repeat myself, but we did kind of discover that a lot of folks want a single bedroom, so they want to,
Oh,
yeah, 4 single bedrooms rather than 4 double, 2 bedrooms. So, everybody set? So on the I building, again, very similar. We've added the roof plan to the site plan page.
What was that? Is this drawing?
To the, on your, not site plan, I'm sorry, on the floor plan page, we've added the site plan, the roof plan.
Here.
Right there.
So we can keep track.
I got it.
All right, on the elevations, 2 5-inch window casings on the trim, gutter, again, we've got the detail on the gutter. Natural wood louvers, cedar slat, mat canicle enclosures. The windows on the second floor, dim to remain duty E, sill and ridge height restrictions, 30-inch sill, 18-foot 6-inch at dropped eaves. And roof plans added, reduce the number of I buildings overall from 12 to 8. We've already started to diversify the I. That's just for your general information. We haven't given you our new renditions of but we're trying to mix it up. And so last time you were considering this building as being something we were gonna intend to replicate at some level, whatever would mix it up with. 12 times, we're down to 8, and we'll keep trying to reduce that.
And there's only one door on this.
How many eyes are there in the project? You know?
Yeah, you can see on the site plan, these are the eyes, they're slightly, they're still rectangular, but slightly light blues. Yeah, the light blues are the eyes, the darker blues are the eyes, sort of knockoffs.
These should be the same, but there's no side door.
I haven't seen the floor plans either, I'm not sure why.
I just mean if there's gonna be
Could be that it added two
maybe
bedrooms.
something buildings, if every door is the same. I don't know.
She
I
just
just
put
wondered.
that in.
No, well, I think Patty just sort of addressed that you're gonna mix up the eye a little bit, because there's so many of them,
Yeah,
right?
we've gone back and forth, as you know, through the whole process. It's really, you're, typically looking at one structure at a time, and we know we've got multiple structures, so, and we just like to give you a footnote that we're gonna be mixing this up, but today's concentration is really on this one structure as our first basic eye building.
Okay, so just a point of information for clarification, when you say mixing up, you're talking about dormers and other changes. Are you also talking about, the comment I had asked, I just made briefly on the sidebar here, was about all of the buildings having the same front door with the same frontispiece? And I'm just putting out there, I'm curious if that's the most appropriate treatment, and so you're saying that you're gonna mix it up, so I'm wondering if you're including the front door and the frontispiece.
Definitely, I think that
Okay.
that's actually a nice way to mix it up.
Okay, thank you.
Well, further on that note, I'm just talking generally about, there's so many I buildings, is on the massing itself, has there been any thought to maybe bringing something forward a couple of feet, or is this something that we can't do because it's low-income housing and it's a,
It's not
It's-
low-income housing.
okay, well, but it's,
It's no longer that old product, that was what was holding us up in Meadows One, so it's not that.
it's not that,
No.
okay.
So that's good.
I'm just thinking, I don't want it to look like a barracks,
Yep.
So, I'm wondering if we couldn't do something where some of the massing comes forward, like, on the eyes are basically rectangles, like rectangle blocks. If the front part, say, the two windows to the left and right of the front entry and the same as the upstairs, if that could come out just 2 feet to differentiate, make a shadow line on the front of the building. I think it might break up that. I mean, it's gotta be a way to break this up.
Absolutely.
No, I think you're absolutely right.
You could also do asymmetrical and have,
One of the things I was thinking about, call me crazy, that we continue discussion, as you see, we've got a few I buildings in this particular footprint, that we not formally pass any of them until we consider each one of them.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, we can work with that.
That's a
You
good
know,
idea.
call me
Work
crazy.
with that, yep.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Just again on the,
My boss will probably strangle me, but,
Why don't we, let her finish talking?
but if we can get like to a consensual
Thank you.
place with each building without formally passing it until you see all 1, 2, 3, 4, and say this one has this feature, this has the other feature, and then we pass one at a time, that may make you more comfortable. Otherwise, I feel like, I'm getting to learn the sense of reluctance that I feel sort of coming through that says, if once I sign on the dotted line, this one gets to go out the door and I don't have a chance to pull it back in.
I honestly don't think that's necessary, because we are gonna review each one of them
Okay.
separately, and you can introduce the changes then. Would you agree?
Well, there's nothing wrong with holding them as a group until we can put them all in front of us.
We were
on the
last one, with G, there was only one
One.
of that type.
Yeah.
Right, and then we have 4 I's and 1 H.
And I think that
No, we
H,
have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
There's 8 H's,
7,
eyes.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12 eyes.
Well, I was thinking of just inside
decrease that?
this
Oh,
little black line thing.
so if we look at the G and the H, I think Val's point, we could do the G's and H's matches on the other sections easily enough if you pass those. But when you're talking about a cluster that's within each pocket, then maybe it's worth looking at comparatively.
Right.
That's all.
I think it's a good idea. I don't think it harms anything.
We're not in any hurry to build tomorrow, so.
Yeah.
And then just on the general, we were talking about making changes to the massing and the, obviously you already talked about dormers. It may also just be the way the porch is addressed, whether it's a fuller porch, whether it's got a gable roof. There may be some small changes too that could be put in if to one eye that faces a different cluster as opposed to more structural changes. I mean, when you get to your design, I just think that may be one of the tools along with dormers and also building on the mass, because I think you're going to need to do that. What Abby had suggested and Val had suggested, that there's so many of the units. But that may also be a tool I just mentioned.
What I'd like to do is, if we could do the, the G and the H and get conceptually comfortable with the basic I with some suggestions, maybe the next time I come back with 3 I's, all with different architectural
That's a
features.
great idea.
Yes. We'll do the H now so we have time. One thing, Patty, which Val mentioned to me and I hadn't noticed, is there is no rear door.
Yeah, I did mention that to the architect. I guess there's no need for it, but it is one way to mix it up, so.
Well, then you
Right.
could have a door on a different elevation, and that adds to some interest.
And somebody might live in the back and not want to go through the whole building every night.
A little pad roof over it or something so it doesn't affect your.
Okay.
Well, Madam Chair, are we gonna make comments on I's now, or are we gonna hold this and go to?
Why don't we have made a general statement on the eyes, what we would like to see, and what Patty's going to bring to us. Why don't we have some constraint of time, why don't we do the H building, which will be a singular approval, and then she knows that we're going to want to see various iteration of the I building. Does that sound all right with everybody?
No, that's a good idea.
Good.
Madam Chairperson, I'd like to speak.
Yeah.
Okay, I have questions. Number one, this structure, okay, this is 55 feet long. What happened to the 50-foot requirement on the roof plane?
We're not doing that right now, Johnny. We will do that building by building. And right now, we're just looking at the shape of the building, and
Well, why are we signing the application?
we're
Not
not.
this one, we're not.
This one, not.
No.
This one, we're not.
Right, that's my question there. That, and there's no change in the side lights as there was in the past.
Yeah, she has
She
the,
has that note, she's gonna do that when she brings it back.
and she's bringing, the next time we come back, she will have sort of 3 iterations of the I building.
We got 3 additional, so we'll just put them out one more.
Right.
With this.
All right, so we will do the H building now. This will be held.
Motion to hold I's.
Ayes. Thank you. All those in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye,
Aye. Yes.
On the H building, again, we'll need, the roof plan is on the site, it's not, shouldn't be site plan, it should be floor plan.
It's actually on this little one, too.
Is it really?
Mhm.
Oh, that's right. And, the elevations, 5-inch window casing trim, gutter detail, has been provided. Natural wood louvers, either side, mechanical enclosures, second floor big window, as the other previous changes, and then the so very similar comments on all 3 buildings, and all 3 were adjusted.
All righty. Val, why don't you begin?
No, let John.
He's not ready.
Oh.
So,
Same comment about the door, yeah.
You're last.
Um,
Hang in there.
I'm not sure if. I don't know.
Another question.
Hang in there. Val's going first, then Abby, then you.
I still haven't really sorted out in my head is how these two roofs tie together. With that hip, with the little bump up there, but other than that, the windows and everything are fine.
Where is it?
Here, look at your H.
That's on the west
The
elevation.
west and the east have these little cheeks, I understand it, I'm just trying to think of it.
Where,
There's a better
where,
solution.
they're not part of the hip, are they?
Yeah,
The
so
little
this
cheek?
roof is hipping up, that's
Oh,
this,
Yeah,
and then it has to come to a point because it ties in with this, which is higher.
right. That's on the west elevation.
West and east, that's the only,
Maybe,
Is that this little piece out here, Bill, that I've circled, or am I getting it wrong?
nope, that's it.
That's it?
yeah, ask her about that. Is that anything else?
No,
Except the front door,
I
which we
think
know
it
about.
looks good.
Yep. Abby?
Yeah, no, I've got nothing.
Johnny? This one is up for
Yeah.
approval.
This one?
Yeah.
The one we're looking at is up for approval today.
Thank you. I'm up to speed.
You have anything you'd like to ask about?
Front door.
Yeah.
Where's that?
Okay. Steve?
No additional comments.
Okay, so all on this building is the hip and the little gable things on the east and west, and the hip cut on the north and south. Does anybody have a feeling about it or a solution?
I'm wondering if this is just in theory, if you could somehow just do that connection piece like as a cricket-ish kind of thing.
And take this all out?
Right, so then it looks, there's more,
Flat and
I don't know, because I don't know what's going on in the attic. That's just mechanical stuff, right?
Yeah.
So
Does
this
everybody
is
see
just a
what you-
question for her. Is it possible to cut this main ridge here and then just connect these two pieces with these little connector roofs? Like that. I don't know. I guess probably not, because then we're gonna create a bump right here. Because that's as equally as high, right? I don't know. Thinking about it.
Maybe we can hold for, not revisions, but hold for more information or something, and she can look at that roof line.
Yeah, and I'd like to bring her next time, so that probably
Yeah,
makes sense.
that would be great.
That
Okay.
would be great to ask. So
I
we
mean,
will,
that's the only thing. And then
Right.
the door.
but basically, if we put some mind to that hip roof there, we've got hip roofs, other places that we have to have an answer for, which looks good or not. So that,
Should I hold for revision then?
all right, everybody in favor of holding for revision?
Aye.
Aye,
Minor revision.
but yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah, that
when we
roof one.
discuss, the next time we'll discuss the other I buildings, it would be helpful for her to be here.
Yes.
Yes.
That would be very helpful, so that's how we'll do it.
So we are going to hold until next, and H, we're holding for slight revisions.
All in favor?
And architect, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 All righty, thank you.
Aye on the H's.
Yes.
Yes.
Because there are a lot of those H's, so I think we should
Ayes.
kind of think, oh, H's
H is
too.
two, there's 4 H's, so.
You don't see I.
Do we want to approve some minutes?
Sure.
Motion to approve.
Ah,
Change that.
I changed it.
We did, I thought we did November 21.
is there any harm in,
Double doing.
I'll make a motion to.
Belt and suspenders.
Okay.
So can I have a motion?
Yeah, November 21st.
Thanks. All those in favor?
Aye.
No, this is about approving the minutes of November 21st.
All right,
You okay? All those in favor? Gabby's
Aye.
motion, aye. Okay, so Stephen has provided us.
Okay, so what I did is I took the information, incorporated our discussion from the last meeting. So if you look at the highlighted text, basically that's incorporated. We wanted to inform and encourage homeowners' involvement, which I think we wanted to do anyways, but just to include it in there as a statement and to try and do that through architects and designers. Further down in the interim and the final, that rectangular box which is text, we just wanted to make clear that this is any exterior appendage or permanent attachment, and the relevance of any is that's our control if it's visible.
Right.
And the relevance of exterior appendage or permanent attachment is that's the actual definition within the act of an architectural element that is part of our purview, again, if it's visible. So I wanted to pick that up. And then the lower portion, the text is the same. It's the words have been revamped a little bit. That was mostly in more of a note form for myself, so I made it a little more presentation worthy. That the AC condenser heat pumps, this is information we would be providing to people in our informational, so they understand not only that this is an issue, but how they address it. So it would be that the past approvals issued were issued after review of siting and orientation, and that if an application, if a condenser or heat pump is found appropriate, the siting and the orientation, that the discussion proceeds amongst the commission to determine what an acceptable enclosure is, and that typically includes fencing or an occasion lattice. And then supply lines, the similar is that cedar box vertical enclosures may be approved if siting and orientation are deemed appropriate if it's shown on elevations with a detail provided to HTC at the time of application. So those are the text changes, and then I also just made a little bit of a formatting change so that you've got the interim highlighted in blue at the top, which was number one of our four-legged stool here, is a notification to people at the application level, and there'd be two steps to that. One is the interim, which is something we would do as a printout that's stapled to the HTC application so everyone is aware of it. And then the text is below. And then two, which the text is referenced below, is that there would be a final notification, which is some version of the interim that's actually printed on the back side of the HTC application once applications are printed.
Right.
So then that takes us down to the language of the interim and the final. And again, the only change I made above and beyond I previously mentioned, and I changed the final just to indicate that basically it's the above, but there may be minor modifications required to accomplish the intent if we need to adjust something to fit on the application, or part of what's already in the interim is redundant because it's on the back of an application someplace else. So that way we don't have to come back to review all of this just as a matter of process. It's already approved.
Can I ask one question
Yep.
here? Your community informational, it says to inform and encourage homeowners' involvement. I would say to inform homeowners of their involvement and not say encourage. Encourage gives you the feeling that maybe you can do it and maybe you can't.
Sure.
I think we have to be stronger. So we'd say to inform homeowners of their involvement or their necessary involvement or something, so that they understand it.
How about of their responsibility?
Okay?
That's good, Steve.
Yeah, I really just took everything verbatim and kind of put it in there, but that makes a lot of sense, thank you. So it would read instead to inform homeowners of their responsibilities and provide, I'll say we don't even need general awareness. Or we could say, and general awareness overall, comma,
Including design and
by
plan.
by supplying design,
Handouts.
yeah, design and supply handouts. By designing and supplying handouts to architects and designers, Nantucket Builders Association, local supply houses, local inspectors, et cetera. Yeah, but changing the wording in the front, it kind of changes the nature of the sentence, so we just clean that up so that it indicates what, it's the same intent, but it's a little bit different.
Yeah, we just don't want to give them an out to begin with of not doing. It's because these pictures that you've chosen, I'd like to see go to the handouts. That is,
Sorry, John.
that house.
Yeah, that's a great example of what not to do.
After
Which
the meeting,
one,
I was
Mary?
driving down Lily Street,
Yeah,
I've
you-
seen so many.
Isn't it
On
crazy?
Lily Street?
On Lily Street,
On
yeah.
Lily.
Coming down, looking to the left, I
Oh,
saw a
that's
whole bunch.
beautiful.
It's an
I had this-
epidemic.
I had this thought that, for the ones that are already existing, but this is a bad thought though, that if people that have already done something like this, if they were made to paint it a certain color, but I don't want to encourage people to get away with it. See, this is what, it's a little bit sticky, but they're so egregious
Yeah.
that, especially the white on old shingles is very contrasting. But if they were made to paint it Nantucket gray, for instance,
Right.
I wouldn't want to encourage that sort of bad behavior on future ones.
Yeah.
You see.
And we can review them right when they come in.
Yeah.
And to add to that, I was out and about this weekend and I peppered Val with pictures from probably, I think I sent her 5, I literally walked less than 50 feet on North Wharf. And they are everywhere in those
Yeah,
cottages.
I would think so.
Yes, I have them.
And
It's
This
crazy.
one over to the far left, they go around the windows.
And
That
that's a
is
new
on
house.
Francis
That's on
Street.
Francis Street. That's a brand new house.
Oh, yeah.
So who's the culprit? Is it the homeowner that asks?
You know,
Is he, or who is
I would
the-
fault the builder more than the homeowner.
The electrician or the guy who,
It's this-
whatever there was resurfacing, that one that goes straight up, each one
Well,
is
I
terrible.
don't really understand, like, when is there an option to either put them in or in?
Okay,
So these are mostly retrofits because the ductwork doesn't exist. And this is the cheapest way to do it, right?
Yeah, in an existing home, typically what they'll do is they'll come in, it's a retrofit AC system, so it's retrofitted to the home.
Is it the only way to do it, though?
No.
No, okay.
Um,
There isn't.
There's
newer
some
houses, you
argument,
Box it on the inside.
Room in between the,
yeah, there's some argument, sorry, Dan, there's some argument that with the older homes, depending on the type of construction, if they've just got like a thick member framing that's two inches wide by, 4 inches, 2 inches deep by 4 inches wide, and then it's a horsehair lath and plaster type of thing, then they would do it on the outside because you really can't necessarily get it up through the walls.
Right.
But, right, what we're saying is you need to be sensitive about where you're doing it. But most of these houses, you can do it through the floor framing system, up an interior wall, and then wherever you need to put it. Even if it goes through the floor system in the bay, joist bay, and then it goes up through a wall into the attic space and comes down and drops into a bedroom with a ceiling cartridge or something. So there are ways to do it even in existing conventional stick-built construction.
Look at this, this example that you see when you're pulling in.
Sorry, I just wanted to get the answer.
no,
to
I was
that.
just saying, like, my age house,
Oh,
you can't
Right, you can't do it. And
put
that's,
fences
Wow.
up, which is why.
well, that
Well,
and
it's
that.
not why I don't.
No,
I don't
if they
need
had just
to
moved
have air
that over
conditioning in
to
the
run
house that I
along
can
the
open
corner board and then right
windows
along
and
under
it goes
there,
through free.
would have made a huge
It's
difference.
disgusting.
But these aren't allowed to stay,
I'll show
these
John.
are these just, they have to take them off, don't they?
Yeah, don't they have to take those off? Don't they have to take those off?
oh, is that what I sent you?
Fresh paint on the side.
No, she has pictures of North Wharf and these rotten air conditioners all over them.
Down the wall, 'cause walk right, I never
yeah,
seen
I
that.
Are you kidding?
Okay.
Just put 'em on, you-
How do we get that done?
Diane, you've raised a very good point.
In Boston, you have to take them out.
That's number 4 on our list.
Found it.
What point?
Is
Okay, the good point is
Organization's coming here.
enforcement.
Right,
Now, we have an organizational meeting coming up the 5th Tuesday in January. And John and I have already discussed the idea of having town council here, or putting in a request for town council, or at a minimum having Andrew and/or Leslie here to speak to our ability as a board to levy fines, what the process is.
I thought that had been established when we levied fines before.
It's in the act. It's just, I mean, I don't
It
even
used
want
to
to
be
say it, it's only
$300
$500.
a day.
I
Gotta go pick up my
mean,
notes.
One time?
it's a $10 fine per offense. Each violation, each day is considered a violation with a maximum of $500
For these,
for any violation. And the violation is not necessarily the owner. It's any person who comes in front of the commission, who falsely provides information, seen a couple of those, who, or who does work without approval. I'm just saying it's a $10, I'll review it, but it's I had a printout of it, it's a $10 per time.
But the key thing is the max.
It's $500, yeah.
I mean, my God.
Yeah.
I don't want to be rude, I have to scoot.
Okay.
Thank you for doing all this.
Okay,
what
thank you
if
for
it's
pushing.
a economic situation? What happens then?
I think it's up to, it's to the discretion of the commission to whether to assign a
Okay.
waive.
Yeah, okay.
And there isn't any language that says what the criteria is.
Okay.
It says that the board may fine $10 per violation. The words, I'm paraphrasing, may fine $10 per violation, a maximum of $500. That's what the act says.
Did. Dr. Hoosie went to his house on Center Street, 58, what
I
was it?
have a comment.
Well, let me finish
Where's your
mine,
Bible?
and then you can do your.
Oh, with the roof that they
With the roof, and we fined him, and it should be in our file somewhere, I believe that we fined him $300 a day until it was either approved or it was fixed.
It may be that the act on the website, I mean, I'm 90% sure it says 10, but it may be that the act isn't updated,
And it may have had that
so
much,
it may be something different.
the money, because he put a lot of money into that house. I can't remember whether it was relative to how much money was spent, I can't remember that, it was a fair long time ago. But I know that it was put up at $300, and I believe he paid some 30,000, there was some fairly
I have a
good
vague
amount, do you remember?
recollection of
That
that.
roof?
Wow.
Down that roof?
That's definitely different
Okay.
language.
Before we carry it too far,
I'll get an update.
the judge in his ruling, for those that were on the commission at the time when it happened, his final ruling was, he said, you cannot give a figure of what was fined. That's being sealed by me, he said, but you can use the words over $20,000, and that's all you can say. That's on the court record. So, you know, if we start, you know, someone come walking in through that door, neither one of us is saying that, you know, that what the fine was. I've never told anybody what it was. You know. It was over.
I can't remember, but we
Yeah,
did make,
It was up there.
it was, I do remember, pretty sure that it was $300 a day.
Yeah.
We went and inspected the roof. Roof had been put up, I don't know what, 2 feet, 3 feet. And
Right.
we can look it up because it has to be reported somewhere, just of how it works.
Hmm.
Because we
Well,
did have
I'd
that
love to
option.
have a refresher, because it's.
But I think it's a
got
good
to
idea
come
to
up
have
with
the
this.
John Comer or that woman who wasn't too bad.
Oh, yeah, she was good.
I had a comment, Chair. Right, Chair. Reading this is just a fine piece of work. It's a start, something that is going to hit us in the future. Well, you know, in the case of it, before we go too far, other than wait until the end of January, because when word hits the street about this, they're all going to be in here, you know, electricians, you know. What we should do, make a motion that none of those pipes, whatever you want to call them, are allowed outside above the first floor. Because all you gotta do is get inside that wall, you know, just above the first floor, and he says run it inside, you gotta keep them inside the building, or you can't have them.
Why do you have to have them on the first floor? I wouldn't have them on the building
Well,
exteriorly at
Well,
all.
I
at a
just brought up
certain,
the
at a
discussion.
certain point, it needs to come out, but that is no different than a regular old air conditioning
Right.
condenser. It comes out of the foundation.
And
It's
that's
that
it,
high off the
but we
ground.
don't need pipes going up
Right.
from the thing.
Well, and in this, what this does, as we all know, is gives us an opportunity to make, make that known, but also to get people in front of us so that the ones that have done it get fixed and the ones that are gonna do something don't do it that way. Just to be clear, the Historic District Commission, Chapter A, 301 of the Special Acts, Section 4, subsection G, Section 10, any person who violates any of the provisions of this act shall be guilty of a misdemeanor and upon conviction, so keep that in mind too, that's a whole other ballywhack, shall be fined not less than $10, nor more than 500, which shall be forfeited to the use of the town. Each day that a violation occurs, continues to exist, shall constitute a separate offense. So for the record, I read that and I misinterpreted it completely
500
wrong.
is per day.
It could be as much as $500 per day, so
Yeah.
that's important for us to, that's why I wanted to look it up, because it was,
That was that whole thing on
Somewhere
the
along the
$300.
line, after this, we brought it up, and the commission voted that, let me get it right, the commission voted that you can charge up to 10 times the fee for the application. That's also in there too. Yeah. So,
And that's for an as-built.
right.
yeah.
And, I mean, I would just like to say too that I think, I'm not speaking for anyone, but I think it's a general sentiment, is we prefer not to be fining people anything unless they're just not observing and they're obstinate about it and they're
Yeah.
fighting it. And
Right.
so, I mean, just if it's picked up on the
That's the
TV, the
leverage.
HDC isn't looking to fine everyone $500 a day because they had a mini split. We're looking to get it fixed so it's not an ongoing issue. At least that's my feeling.
Technically, if I am a licensed electrician and I am hired by Steve and he has a seal from the HDC and they say, here, just do this for me, it's not on the drawing, but we'll do it. And I do it as a licensed electrician in Nantucket. Why am I not responsible for what, as well as the homeowner, as what went wrong, what I did wrong?
I think an argument can be made that you are. It says any person who violates the
Right.
act. So again, I'm not trying to suggest that we're, gonna get red and blue and yellow lights on a truck and go out there with shotguns. Anyone who does it, who violates the act is subject
But I,
to the fine upon conviction. So there may be some legislation changes that are required.
right, but we see, like, people went and cut down all those holly trees
Yeah.
out there. They weren't held responsible, and yet they knew goddamn well that they shouldn't have cut down the holly trees, that they had to have the thing from the Conservation Commission saying cut them down, but nothing
Actually,
happened to
the
them.
land bank was the people who cut the trees.
Right, well, but they had their workers do it. The workers were a free,
Private contractor.
right.
Well,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
just a sidebar on that, Diane, I'll give you some assurance on that. So, the land bank has the people that maintain their stuff, right? And heretofore, or before that incident, they basically left it up to that guy. If somebody wanted to prune a tree, fine, no big deal. Don't kill the tree, but prune the tree. So what happened there was that homeowner said, oh, can you cut those trees down? And the guy goes, sure, yeah, go ahead. And then they figured out how high and everything, and it was a disaster. So now, what has to happen with the land bank properties is the guy in the field can't make the decision. What he has to do is he has to take it back to the board, and the board has to review it, and they have to vote
To do it.
either do it or
So
not.
the land bank is making that responsibility. There are just some other commissions that should make that responsibility.
perhaps we can lead by example.
I think this is really good.
Yeah, okay.
So what do we want to do with it? I mean, do we want
Do
to
we
get?
need to vote to sort of implement this,
We would have to
John?
make a
Would,
resolution.
yes, yep.
And then, this is my only concern, is I applaud and I agree, town council, I think town council is more beneficial to have here if we have questions that come up versus anyone else, not anything on anyone else. But if we have questions and town council could be here, that would be great, I think, as a
To
member.
see if what we're doing is legitimate.
No, I'm
Yeah.
not talking about this, I'm talking about in general at the organizational meeting. But with respect to this, I mean, this is clearly our purview because it says right in the act that all we're saying on the front of the application is that we're reprinting portions of what is already in the act, but we're putting it near the top and highlighting the HVAC part. My concern is if we don't do it, if we put it off, then it's gonna be
Too late.
it's going to be longer and more violations before discussion starts.
Yeah. So I
I don't know that the planning board needs to get
When we
in
have
on
that
it,
meeting, we
That's
should just
just-
invite town council.
Right, I don't think
Yeah.
Andrew and Leslie have to come.
no, we can put in a request
Town council.
to have town council.
Night.
John, can you do that?
Well, it just seems like it would be beneficial to have them there. Regardless of who else comes, it would be beneficial to have town council here because it seems like we have questions for them. With respect to this, what I would suggest is that if we all agree as a group, and, I don't really vote on it, I don't think, because I'm an associate. But if the full board agrees, vote it in as a resolution,
Can I make a?
and then we can work on it.
motion
Well,
today?
actually, we're 5 members now, so I think you can.
Oh, okay, so, and then it's not gonna happen between now and Christmas anyways, but I could be getting it together. Part of it would be, the resolution would be to adopt, and then to have me work with John to get it together, because I don't wanna just put this on John and say, here, John, staple this to 1,000 applications, so I would like to talk to him about what needs to be
So
done and
what-
how it would get done and stuff like
We
that.
make a
How do we get the
resolution
message out?
that the HVAC equipment connection and supplies be implemented with a little more work, or however.
You could vote to a resolution to adopt and implement this as it's written, and
All
then
right.
we can take it
Go
from there
on.
and give you an
Yeah,
update.
it's just, why
Yeah.
can't we do that?
I think that's good, just
That's what I'd like to
change
do.
those words, and we'll go.
Yes, which I have a note on.
Right.
Okay.
And then all I'm saying is, just so you guys know what would be next, is I would work with John to make sure that it's happening on a timeline that he can also work with. Who knows, he might say, I don't have time to staple that all on, and we'll post a notice and we'll have a pizza party, and we'll all grab, 600 applications and start stapling.
Yeah.
You know, but we don't need to be involved as a board to get to the point of figuring out what needs to be
No,
next.
you do that, you've been designated to do
Okay.
that, so.
I think it
Shut
should
up
say
and do that.
attention.
Yes.
John, do you have any thoughts on this? Like
Yes.
how it's proceeding?
Well, I think one idea, and I think it was discussed previously, was to maybe try and meet with the Builders Association.
That's in here.
Yeah.
Them, I see that on there.
So
That's
that would
a
be
big
part of
one.
the next step
I
too.
think that would be a good, to try and do some presentation with them, I think would
Yep.
be a good outreach for that.
Is tonight the party at the number?
No, that was
Last Thursday?
Friday.
Any
Was
other-
Friday?
Last Friday.
It was last Friday. I
I'm
thought.
sorry, I'm gonna have to
Read
take
through
a
it
little
again.
time to read through this,
Okay.
yeah.
If you have any ideas, you can
All right.
email us.
John,
Yes.
I think you and Steve should get together, come up with a recommendation, and then let it go with that, come up with something, go over it.
Well, I think right now what we can safely do is we can vote to adopt this.
I'd like to make that motion.
Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor of Abby's motion to adopt the HDC visible HVAC equipment connections and supplies guidelines? All those in
We're
favor?
supposed to
Aye.
have
Aye.
a public hearing on making a change in rules and regulations.
Well,
We're not making a change.
Question.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not going to
Okay.
change.
Yeah.
We're just gonna-
That's a good point, but we're
Yes.
not making a change.
Right.
That, frankly, I wouldn't be comfortable even. I'd want to have town council review.
Yeah,
I would, as a
Fortunately,
member,
he's
I
here in
would say.
January.
But we're
Okay.
not going to
Yes.
change
All
it.
in favor?
All those in favor of Abby's motion?
Aye.
Very good. Thanks, everyone.
And 306.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay.
I couldn't believe, I think I'd block it out. I think I'd look at a building and I'd
Good
just block
job,
it out.
Steve.
Because you look
Yeah,
at it and it's like
terrific.
so,
Well,
I know.
and then when you mentioned it, coming down Lily Street, it's like every other house had it.
Yeah. Once you
When
open your
saw
eyes
the
to it,
Pictures
it's
of
frightening.
North Ward.
Yeah.
You turn it, comes down from the outside stink pipe for ventilation, and it starts at the roof and goes down. Well, they're gonna start down there, tell them you can't have, I would say you can't have any of them anywhere. You can go, every house, you can get a crawl space or a cellar.
Yeah.
Go inside.
Do you
and
have one?
Excuse me, every house has a set of stairs, right? Go right up behind the stairs, right up the second floor if you need it. You can, and then go back across your floor joist and, there's ways of getting around it, you just say no.
did we adjourn?
I didn't hear a motion.
Okay, so, can I want to comment on that, because I think it's important just for you guys to know. There is a limit on how long these lines can be for the system to work properly.
Yes, that's right.
So just so you're aware that it can't be a there is a limit, so reviewing them on a case-by-case basis, we're going to be able to address any of these issues.
Right, it isn't our worry.
Well, that's true too. But just so you're aware, generally.
You can make a motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Someday you
Thanks,
get one.
everybody.